The Gauteng traffic police officer who died after being knocked down by a bus while on the N1 on duty there near Pretoria is being remembered by his family this afternoon. This comes a week after another officer was shot and injured and wounded, in fact, at a roadblock in Braamfontein. eNCA reporter Masego Rahlaga is following the story for us this afternoon and joins us for more. Masego, what more are we learning about this man who was killed by that bus in Pretoria?
Well, Thembekile, it was a very sad time for us to actually be with his family. His wife couldn't be with us. She was actually still at the mortuary in Garankuwa identifying her husband's body, which of course you can imagine took quite a toll on her. And so we met with the officer's aunt, Officer Napoleon Segubela's aunt, his sisters, as well as his two young children, the oldest child being 8 years old and the other one being 2, Thembekile, at the scene where he actually took his last breath. You know, what happened, Thembekile, according to his colleagues, because they were also there to meet with us, because they've been holding the family's hands throughout this ordeal. What they were explaining to us is that it was the normal roadblock yesterday, you know, on your way to areas such as Limpopo and Mpumalanga, after crossing over that Pumlani Plaza ahead just before Hammanskraal in Pretoria. They were there as Gauteng traffic officers. He tried to stop a smaller vehicle. Apparently it was a Corsa that was speeding quite high, because they were using, you know, those cameras that they use to suss out what speed motorists are going at. And he was over the speed limit along the N1 highway. He tried to stop him, but that motorist failed to stop, and that's when the officer decided to go into his state vehicle to try and chase after this motorist that didn't stop. But on his way to actually go to the vehicle, you know, behind him, after he had actually gotten into the yellow lane, Thembekile, his colleagues say the bus driver, they also don't understand what happened. The bus driver just swerved onto the yellow lane and hit him from the back, and he died on impact. So it wasn't even what we initially thought when the MEC of Community Safety, Sizakele Nkosi Malobane, let us know as the media about the officer's death. We thought that he was probably trying to stop the bus driver, but in fact the bus driver had nothing to do with what the police officer was actually executing during his duties yesterday. And as I said, we spoke to you know, one of his aunts, and this is what she had to say.
Just to see where it happened, so that maybe it can heal us. I'm just thinking it will make us feel better now that we've seen the actual place where it happened.
So at the moment, Masego, what we know, just to run over the facts again, this officer was trying to deal with a motorist who was speeding in another vehicle. The bus then came along and killed him on impact. The bus driver now is a man who's in a lot of trouble this afternoon. Has the family said anything about what they would like to see happen to the bus driver given the circumstances?
Well, the bus driver was arrested, Thembekile, yesterday afternoon after the accident had happened, of course. But what the family is saying, Thembekile, you know, they had very little words, you know. I mean, if you're a person who's just lost a loved one in that manner, you don't have many words. And actually, there were more buses that his colleagues were saying were exactly the same color and make as this other bus that actually hit the officer yesterday. And, you know, the family, all they could say is that they hope that you know, the law actually helps them to try and in their journey to healing after what happened yesterday. But right now, Thembekile, all they want, what they told us is that all they want is to concentrate on laying him to rest. They had to go through that entire process of having to identify his remains, for instance, and, you know, it's not a natural cause, so obviously pathologists will have to also come in, and they're traveling to Mpumalanga already, where he's from. He lived in Pretoria with his wife and 2 sons, but home for him is in Mpumalanga, and that's where they are heading, or they were heading when we met them earlier today. And that's what they want to concentrate on, just, you know, the logistics of preparing for the funeral and to lay him to rest. Of course, also the logistics of getting his remains to Mpumalanga as well. So, but the family, of course, also wanting this bus driver to face the might of the law, but they say that they don't have the energy actually to deal with the courts right now. And of course, also the aunt also saying that the oldest son, actually yesterday, the 8-year-old, had nightmares. They couldn't sleep because he kept on asking where his father was, what happened to his father. And we actually met the little boy earlier today at the scene of the accident. And he wasn't okay, Tembegile. He kept crying. They were consoling him. At some point, he just stood all by himself on the side of the road, just looking at all these cars. And of course, it's the highway, so the vehicles are coming at a very high speed. So the family not okay at the moment, Tembegile. But to get back to your question, of course, they do want justice served.
eNCA reporter Masego Rahlaga, let's leave it there for now.